Due to your hard work, we were able to have successful teaching on David's birthday. I guess you feel comfortable too. These are all individual works. If you're not able to see, then your legs and your hands feel difficulty. And if your nose doesn't work, then your stomach might have problem because you are not able to eat well. So if one doesn't do its work, then it harms the overall. So at times like Buddha's birthday, everyone should come together. And whether it's a stick in the kitchen or whether it is stone lying at the backyard, everything should come together and work together. And if everyone works together and bring out the good heart, then it becomes offering. So whatever it was, or for whatsoever reason it was, Gundala has also extended his visit to France, and he also asked for permission from Dalai Lama, and he arrived here. And after he got here, he gave us various teachings, and also he prayed for us. And while doing that, our heart felt at ease. And when we say our hearts are heavy, it is heavy because we have greediness. But by putting down some of our greed, we feel a bit lighter. Have you ever worn your luggage at your back? I have done it many times. You feel like if you feel that after going to 30 meters and if you want to rest, then going the 30 meters feels very difficult. And if someone who is working with you just take out like two very thin logs, then it feels way lighter and you are able to go further. So is our greed. Amongst the hundreds of our greed, if you are able to put down one or two, then it becomes way lighter. But your greed, in olden times when we used to have the old house, the first thing that comes out of the floor is the bamboo, and the bamboo stick grows, and it even goes through the roof of the house. And if your greed just like the bamboo tree growing out of your roof, then the raindrops will fall out from your houses. Just like that. Through the teachings, you should try to eliminate the senses of discrimination, whether it's high or whether it's low, or whether it's more or less, or young or old. At this time or during this time, you should leave out all this and just mingle together and speak about the equanimity of this world. And only if it's equal and you feel like living. But if you discriminate people, then it doesn't make you feel like you're living at all. So through these kind of teachings, you should lay down these hurts momentarily, and your hurt to faith should become a little stronger. The thoughts that were hidden because of your greed, they should be lighted a little, and the brightness should visit them. It's not easy to do it at once, but as the time goes, it opens one layer by layer, and it becomes a little more brighter, and your thoughts straighten out a little bit, and your belief becomes a little deeper, and also the faith for the final destination of your faith becomes a little stronger. After all, that is your benefit. When we say benefit, it also is our happiness, and it is also happiness of all sentient beings, and it's also benefit of all sentient beings. So achieving the teaching successfully is also helpful to yourself and also helpful to many other people. If you think it that way, then you understand that it is something that is beneficial to many people. So for whatsoever reason it was, I visited two places alone with Gutella. But Gutella also went to Sonamu Nursing Home, and he offered together. But if you have the kind of thought that you believe in Buddhism, and you aspire your road to be leadden by the guards, if I live properly and if I live for the benefit of all sentient beings, then the bodhisattvas and also the guards will always guide you. Even in front of death, you should have this kind of beliefs. Then your faith will not be shaken. Acquiring more believers and also acquiring more money, it is not the proper way, or it is not the best way, but the best way is one by one, each people, they step into the Buddhism, and it doesn't mean we are becoming into a group, or we are making ourselves into a group, but through the proper ways, you change your heart and mind. And when we change our heart and mind, it is so that we change our beliefs, and also we change our faith. And in this way, you will practice better and you will step ahead. So everything went well, but one thing that I felt was a little less was also the fact that I didn't do it because everyone was busy, and I felt it might be burden for people in our temple, and also Gutella was going through a very hectic schedule, but the thing that I aspire was for the Seoul Ferry. Nejun Gutella's prayer is different from my prayer. That I said the same to Nejun Gutella. From what I felt, his description of Buddhism and my description, or my understanding of Buddhism, is very different. But I wanted to go and visit serve very and pray there, but it was not possible. There's something that I feel bad about. I cannot make oracle just like Nejun does. The rationality in my brain is too strong, so whatever it is that you try to tell me, if I feel that it is out of my rationality, then it is not so. Even if my mother comes to me and tells me, then then I tell her if it's against my rationality, I would have asked, this is not against the rationality. This is against the rationality, so I don't listen. But I think it would have been the same even with what Buddha tells me. I would have questioned him. This is against my rationality, but can you please elaborate further? But as with Kutenla, it is different. He's very emotional. Like, I am full of personality, but he understands emotions in a way that is surpassing my emotional understanding. So he does things that I am not able to take care of. I'm not able to understand his feelings when he understands all the all the emotions of all these ancient beings around. I'm inviting him to Korea and request him to do things that I cannot. No matter how bad I am, even with the prayers, when I sit and listen to his prayers, then I am able to understand up to some point what is it that he tries to pray. When Kutela was praying for the bodhisattvas and also the guards, the protecting guards, I felt that they were answering to our prayers. That's what I felt. But the problem we had was no water. Because there was no water, we had great difficulty since early morning. Everyone, you guys did a great job, and Venerable Jinok, you also did a great job. There is no water from 3 o'clock, and the water motor broke down at 3, but I couldn't call anyone to fix it from 3 o'clock in the morning. And when they came in the morning to fix it, they couldn't fix it the whole day. But somewhat we got water, and it just happened. Where are we? Those who are watching it online, they will say, oh, I came late and I keep talking about it, about things which is not books, so I want to proceed further. Can you hear well? I didn't switch on the lights. Once someone was sleeping, and when the person woke up, there was fire. So he ran out, and when he was running out, he saw something in front of his eyes, and his glasses fell off. It is saying that all sentient beings, they want to escape the suffering and they want happiness. This is something that you have to observe and experiment each time you realize it. There is nothing in this world that wants suffering, and that is the heart of Mahayana. This is the basic regulation that every sentient being should follow. We should not harm others for our happiness. Then you are not happy and I am not happy too. It is good to do something that everyone wants. When you say we are doing good for everyone, then doing something that everyone wants, then there is a general understanding. Everyone wants happiness. Then you should help those have the way how to gain the happiness. But when you look at the suffering, or it's not, and also when a thief feels happy after stealing, it's not like you're going to help him steal. If you help him steal, then eventually he will become unhappy. So maybe it is better to tell him not to steal because that will eventually lead him to unhappiness. So teaching him how to be happy, and if you show him how to be happy, that is more important. When you say do not drink, it doesn't mean because you're drinking, I feel like dying. If you say so, then he doesn't listen. He'll be like, whether you die or not, I'm going to drink. But you have to let him know that it doesn't help you with your happiness. Because I go to funeral often, I hear them mourning, how do you want me to live that you died? I don't understand why you compare your life to his death. It's not like you feel bad for his suffering of death and you want him to reborn in a good place later, but a person who is alive, she will live until the end of the time. Until she dies, she is never dead. So even if you feel difficult, you do survive. It should be done so. So helping those who can become happy is Mahayana. Stopping things from suffering, it is Mahayana. And differentiating the two clearly is called wisdom. It's precise, right? It is not a doctrine that is just it is not a general doctrine. Because of some Mr. Yu, the country is going through chaos. He used the religion in some way, and he only desired for his benefit. And so the rest of them who had any relation with him is victim. They are all victims. Those who were on board his ferry, they died, and his believers, they suffer greatly because the believers, they sold their houses and offered to him, and also those who were related to the core, they tried to commit suicide, and about 30 people died, and all his kids, they are on the verge of being sent to prison. we can see that all his relatives or other relations that were caused or created from him leads to our chaos. If we do not change our selfishness, then it is not a Buddhism. No matter how much you try, no matter how much you're trying to change the form or the shape, it's just external. The external appearances can be changed. Even those communist people, I've seen it before. Before, when we had the issue of the spy in Name, they were monk robes and they were caught when they were trying to go into Seoul dressed like a monk. It is not this that we are talking about. When our heart changes to selflessness, it becomes Buddhism. It's only acceptable when you do so, others it is not. That should come alive beginning from Seokjeon Monastery. Those who are even gathered here, we can start off our actions for the others, and one day Yeosu City will just look at us and they'll follow us. We often say, normally when you light a candle, then it brightens the room burning itself. It just doesn't brighten up, but it burns and it sacrifices itself to bring the light. So the way to Bodhisattva is you should throw away your greed. It's difficult to throw away this greed because it's already something that you had before. Then only you can do it. If you don't sacrifice what's yours, then no flame will ever be caught. No flame will be caught. We just did one line. We are not isolated beings. The happiness and suffering of others also affect us directly. We also feel difficult after this Sewol Ferry accident. We feel like we are going through the depressing. It doesn't have any relation with us, but the fact that we can prove that there is a relation between them or between us is the fact that we feel sad looking at the accident. It's only us that we feel sad, but I heard that even those who are far away in the Africa, they also feel our suffering. So there is a relation. So when you say he is happy, if they are happy, then I also have the vibe of happiness. If they are unhappy or if they are suffering, then I also suffer. I also have the sense of vibe. I also have the vibe of sadness. If you're laughing at others suffering, that means you're a devil, isn't it? Oh, that person was doing this and now he's bankrupt, and you laugh inside. There is the laughter of a devil. When I say something like this, before I would have been sent to prison. When the people in North Korea, about 3 million people died of hunger, I felt very sad. But some people said only like 2 million.
말을 좀 잘못했다. 300만보다 작다 그 뜻입니다.
In Cambodia, due to Pol Pot's
캄보디아에서 그 폴포트의 무자비한 학살이 진행될 때도
when he started from the killing field, about 2 million people died.
캄보디아의 킬링필드에서 시작했는데 그때도 200만 정도 죽었는데 이북에서
And
300만 있고
in North Korea, about 3 million people died because they had nothing to eat. They could not even stand straight with the guns on their back. Whether it's Kim Jong-un, Kim Il-sung, or you feel you hate them, but what is there to hate those who are starving? It is only those who have the political power. But it's not the fault of these commons who are starving to death just because they met the wrong king. That is something that is very heartbreaking. That's why maybe you feel like they don't have a direct relation with you, but you are never independent. Everything is related. And maybe in our thought, they threw away our dog. They had a dog before, and maybe for somewhat reason, and maybe for some reason the owner threw away the dog because it was costing money, or maybe because she had to take care of it. Then the dogs will just stand on the street looking for the owner. When you look at the suffering of the dog, can the owner of the dog be happy? And she can never be happy. The selfishness to throw away the dog away can never be happy. The selfish heart will cause her greater suffering than bringing up the dog because of the relation between them. When I pray for after the death of our Sanjay, our dog, when I prayed for him on the 49th day, everyone was smiling. When I asked them why are they smiling, they are mocking at me because I prayed for the dog. And I told them, maybe you should try to live better because you do not live a more valuable life than my dog. Because that means the person has not been, because that has not been treated as much as my dog. If the kids are not able to have the prayer for on the 49th day, then maybe you're not treating your parents as much as your dog. But nowadays there are some people who does not treat your parents as much as their love for their dogs. I think there are some people. If I say some, then you should say there are a lot. I didn't say that there are a lot. The mutual relevance between them is very clear. All the sentient beings, even before the time there was no beginning, they have given us so much benefits and they have been very kind to us. That's true. In fact, the fact that our life goes on, all the microorganisms or all the air. For example, if you say if the air becomes selfish and if it says it doesn't want to go into our nose, then we will die. And so if the water says, I'm not going into your filthy stomach, and if the water doesn't go into our stomach, then what will happen? We will die within a week. If all the food,
우리는 일주일 내로 죽네.
if we eat rice and if we just have allergic reaction and if we have diarrhea and if we have headache
알레르기가 나버리고 배가 아프고 설사가 나고
and if it reverses after being eaten, then can you survive? We are able to live because they helped us. But you don't know how to be grateful to them.
그왜 고마움을 몰라?
You should know how to be grateful.
왜 고마움을 모르면 안 되지?
They are helping us in every way. Through the natural instinct, they're trying to avoid the suffering, and that they are aspiring for happiness. It's nothing different from us.
근데 그와 같이 나와 연관되어 있는 모든 생명들이 전부 다
Why can't you help those who want happiness?
행복을 원하고 있는데 왜
If you help them, you'll be happy too.
도와서 행복한다면 나도 행복할 것인데.
If I say this, you should say Amen.
내가 이제 이 얘기하면 아멘 해야 돼.
Jesus Christ has said. Think about it.
예수님께서 가라사대.
The final meal of Jesus Christ,
예수님이
and he was executed. Although people asked him to run away, he chose the death.
그날
For them.
가라고 했는데 당신 죽음을 선택했어. 이들에게
That's under the thought that he wants to tell the others that there is a light. And when you say resurrection, I interpret this way.
부활.
Change your heart.
나는 그렇게
And maybe in our way, we can say that through the enlightenment, you are reborn again.
식으로 얘기하면 깨달음으로 다시
He chose the death, and through this, he made your eyes open.
죽음을 선택함으로써 그들에게 눈을 띄우겠다는 생각을 한 거지.
The resurrection of his gave so much happiness to others, and he sacrificed himself. But only one person said Amen.
묻지 아멘은 한 사람밖에 안 해.
I went somewhere and I was teaching, and half of them in middle of the teaching they said Amen. I was very surprised. It was not even a Christian gathering. It's also rationally natural thing to make an effort to develop an attitude without prejudice for the happiness of all sentient beings.
논리적으로도 당연한 일이다.
It is not right to say this is irrational or emotional, because even in the rational way, I'm not an independent being,
전부 다
and if everything is connected,
모두
then
연관돼 있다면 이 손가락이 다 손가락이
just the way that 10 fingers are all happy, if no finger is suffering.
다 행복하듯이 그지. 한 손가락만 따져도 다른 손가락도 달달.
But because we suffer from selfishness, me, myself, and my children, and only those beings who are connected with me in an emotional way,
연결된
we
사람만
feel the suffering if they suffer.
이게
The other parts, they are all numb,
다 이렇게 느끼려고 하는 다른 부분은 마치
they're all paralyzed.
다른 부분 마비가 되거든. 그러면 내가 그래서
That's why I say
중생
mankind are those who are very numb or who suffer from or who have been put into anesthesia.
치된 사람
They should feel the suffering, but they don't really feel the suffering.
마취가 돼버렸어. 마음이 아파.
Is it because of the painkillers or is it because of the anesthesia?
진통제가 돼가지고 마비가 돼가지고
So in temples, when you pray for our fortune, how much does it put into your suffering or your selfishness? We can know it from this.
고통으로 밀어넣는 한 방법이라는 것을
from our heart. If selflessness does not develop, then this is not a Buddhism and this is not even a religion.
불교도 아니고 아무것도 아니야.
This is nothing but mere organization looking for benefits using Buddha.
아주 쇠파리 같은 이 쇠파리 알아요? 쇠파리?
It's even worse than a leech.
찐득이. 쇠파리는 딱 물면 따끔하거든. 그러면 소가 그냥 펄쩍 뛴다고 꼬리를 탁 치고 물면. 근데 찐득이.
Do you know the warble fly? It's almost like a warble fly. When it bites a cow, then the cow jumps because it hurts. But the thing that which is worse than the warble fly is the leech. The warble fly first
이렇게 하면서 마취제를 살짝 마취제가 이 안에 들어가가지고 요 국수 마취가 딱 되면 그 침을 조금 더
the warble fly first put the anesthetic drugs, and when he doesn't feel anything, then it puts a little more of its
얼마나 침을 잘 놓는지 안에 딱 나가지고 핏줄에
needle, and then it continues until it is satisfied. He's more expert than nurses trying to find the veins.
그래가지고 해가지고 이제
And when the anesthetic drugs are about to run off, then they put some more.
병원에 가면 수술하고 나서
You know, when you go to hospital and do operation, then there is a thing that controls the painkiller.
조절해가지고
They have this naturally inborn with them.
넣고 마취제 넣었다가 그리고 가만 꽂고 있으면 피가
And after some time, when the blood is being sucked, then their body becomes bigger. And when they are satisfied, then they remove themselves from the cows.
그러다 이제 다 커졌잖아. 그러면 이제 딱 떨어져.
And inside, inside the body of the warble fly, the insects they drink the blood and they come to life, and the mother dies.
죽어. 근데 걔는 수고롭게도 피를 쭉쭉 빨질 않아. 새파리를 넣고서 수시간 빠는
But the thing is, leech just puts its needle and just stays there, and until it is satisfied, and then they come off. But until they are satisfied and until they remove themselves from the body, we are not aware that a leech has bitten us. And just the way, if you don't gain your own consciousness, then you will not know where be fallen. By the time that you realize what's going on, then everything's over. But because Buddhism is asking you to stay awake since the beginning, they don't come here to listen.
맹숭맹숭해서 안 와. 마취제도 안 와.
If I say on this day, everyone
2015년 12월
will go to heaven, and so let's chant.
뒤에 자 여러분 전부 다 극락세계로 전부 다 올라갈 것입니다.
Think something like that should happen, but in Buddhism, there's nothing like that. But from the first time, from the first beginning, we ask you to stay awake, and because of that, people just keep listening to things happening, and they just let it go as they are.
듣고서 맨날 지식으로 듣고 저거는 저런 저거는 저런 생각으로만 떼굴떼굴 굴렀어.
And when you go to temples for so many years, you don't change, but you have heard so many things, and so you
나이가 들어가지고 저거는
and so you try to teach people, and you try to make analysis, and we call that a goblin who is about to die.
죽을 때가
And the worst being in a temple or in a monastery is those goblins which are about to die.
절제만 해도 제일 개떡 같은 존재가 열반당 도깨비야.
Because
도깨비가 하도 남 죽는
Because the goblin, because the goblin has seen so many beings which are about to die,
이 도깨비가
and he feels so happy when he sees them.
기분이 좋아.
So today I'm speaking about so many things which are not related. If you want to treat everyone with the same heart, then maybe it's effective way to start off with some more particular beings. The first one is those who harm you in this life. The other one is giving you those who gives you indirect benefit, and the last one is the one who is not beneficial or who is not even harmful to you.
우리가 이제 제일 이게 생각이
It is very easy to have a thought that how can you treat those who harm you with an equal hurt? How can you treat those without hatred, but treat them without same heart or equal heart? Your husbands, have they done good for you or have they hurt you? Have they harmed you? Seems like only two people are answering. Oh, you mean he has done more good to you than the bad things? Well, at least he has done good to you because he has earned his money and fed you. Raise your hands, those who wants to marry your husband once again. You're not going to do it. It's a problem. The husbands also say they're not going to get married again, but later they say they want to get married again because they want to be fed. You study your enemy, but even the enemies are those who are closest to you in your previous life. If they're not close to you, then there's no way that they would have become an enemy. Like there is no reason for me to become enemy with Nelson Mandela, right? If you've taken someone else's money and if you feel great suffering, then maybe they were your brothers and sisters in your previous life, and they had only taken what was previously theirs, and that you have taken from them. Then, if you look at it that way, then even those who take your money were your brothers and sisters. Seems like you have lost some money. They are not just they're just some people who does not share any relation with you. Those enemies are the beings who are close to you, whether your siblings or whether your parents. Sometimes good things go bad and the bad things get better. Even in this life, your husband was not bad for you from the first time you got married. Maybe for 3 to 4 years he was good. But since you continued living, you started saying things. When you were dating him when he was young, he didn't seem to drink. But after 1 year, you start seeing that he seemed to be drinking, and you feel cheated. He didn't do it so because he wanted to get married. So when you study those who is your enemy, you feel that that's because they were very close people to you. And also those who are good to you. They could also have been close family or relatives, and maybe that's why they're being good to you.
좋은 사람도 가까운 부모였거나 형제간이었거나 그렇기 때문에 잘 해주는 것이겠죠.
And after that, and also those beings were neither good for you or nor nor bad for you. Just like beings,
이롭지도 해롭지도 않는
like you mix alcohol in the alcohol and you mix water in the water. If you mix alcohol in the alcohol, then it is still alcohol, right? But if you mix water and alcohol together, then what does it become? But we still call it alcohol.
타면 술이요, 물이요? 물술이야.
If you mix alcohol and alcohol, it becomes alcohol, but alcohol and water, it becomes alcohol.
술에다 물을 타도 술이고 물에다 술을 타도 술이죠, 그죠? 근데 물에다 물을 타면 물이고.
If a horse bites you, then either your fingers get chopped off or you get hurt.
손가락이 끊어지거나 크게 다쳐. 말은 아랫이빨이
But
워낙 좋아.
But if a cow bites you, then they don't have teeth on the other side, so it doesn't affect much. So just like cows bite, or just like you mix water and alcohol together, if you act that way, that he was your neighbor for a long time, but you eat your food and I eat my food, even if we cook something delicious, you have nothing to give them, and they have nothing to give it to you, even if they cook something nice. And even if you see them, there's not much difference whether you see them or not. Then if you say, don't they have any relations with you? Well, it is. That's because you have lived your life in that way.
그러면 나하고 아무 연관이 없느냐? 있어. 살면서 고루고루 살았어.
So all these things,
살면서 고루고루 살았어.
even those who give you suffering,
그래서 이제
you should treat them with an equanimity, and even those who treat you well, you should be able to treat them with an equanimity. But we're not like that. Those who are good to you, we say he's a nice person and we treat them well. But if we say he's a bad person, usually that's the case when he is not good to you.
저 사람 못된 놈이야. 그러면 쟤한테 힘들게 해준 사람. 그 사람 나 이름도 몰라. 그냥 술에 술 따도 물에 못 따도.
If you inspect the status where your heart responds, then when you see enemy, you say that's my enemy, and you get nervous and you get angry and you hate them. When you think about your friends, your heart feels a little more stable and you feel comfortable. But to a stranger, you do not have any feeling that's good or that's either hate. Everything in reality begins from prejudice and also selfishness and also from the narrow heart. Our attachment to friends or relatives in our life is for the instant benefit, and also hating your friend, also it's because they give you harm. There is no friend from the beginning. Since they are being born, naturally those environments are being created, and also the enemies of yours, they are not born with a heart to harm you from the beginning. This kind of relations is not trustworthy. While you are living, today's friend might change to your biggest enemy tomorrow, and also the enemy that you hated the most could become your most reliable friend. The essence here lies in your selfishness, whether you hate them or whether you like them. Everything begins from the selfishness.
그러니까 미워하게 되건 좋아하게 되건 간에 전부 다 그건 이기심의
Because the basis lies with the selfishness. If you get over the hatred,
그 근본이 있기 때문에
then even those who harm you in this life, you can feel that you have given them difficulty in your previous life. Why is it so? You can know it looking at the results that you see in this life, because there's no result that comes to you without your actions.
결과를 보면 알 수 있잖아요. 그죠? 내가 짓지 않고 오는
That's why
결과가
you feel that it is a result that came to you after you have made the mistake. And also the fact that you have you have given them difficulty in your previous life. And also they were close to you in your previous life. If you start seeing this way, then soon your heart will find equanimity, and your heart will not stand away from equanimity. And
이게 차츰차츰 마음이 평정심을 찾게 되고 평정심으로 말씀하지 않고
but even those friends, close friends of yours, if you have selfishness and if you treat them with selfishness, then one day they'll become your enemy. And
다 적이 될 수 있는 사람이구나. 아무리 가까워도
and it is not long before they might become the biggest enemy of your life. Especially when you say the husband and wife, and husband and wife, if they start fighting against each other, then they become the biggest enemy. And also, if you say the parents and children, although it is they are bound by the family, but if they start standing against each other, then they also become enemy of life.
그래서 항상 좋은 사람을 참 좋다라는 사람을 바라볼 때도 언젠가 원수가 될 수 있는 사람이구나. 그래서 평정심을 잃지 말아야 돼.
So for everyone, you should never be too close to them.
한번 엎어져서
One day you feel anger, and the other day you feel hatred. The other day you feel love. You should not change instantly. And also, if you look at the past and if you talk about them, looking at them, the previous lives, then you can know that it becomes evident that this kind of thing is not very trustworthy.
우리가 진소의 관계를 가지고
This means do not think of anything in this life as something that is eternal. This kind of relationships are not important. This kind of relationships should be broken down. When you share a difficult relation with them, with some certain person, then you can also feel that maybe in your previous life you gave them difficulty, and so if you're able to bear it in this life, then you might be able to overcome it. So you should be able to treat them with a sense of equanimity.
사라지겠지. 그래서 이미
Even if you look at those reasons, then you can know that the attachment for your friend or your enemy is just an instant, and you can also know that they just began from your narrow heart for that instant benefit.
잠깐의 이익을 위한 속 좁은 마음에서 비롯된 것임을 우리가 알 수 있어요.
But on the other hand, if you look at it with a little more broad spectrum, and if you look a little far, then you can know that the sense of equanimity enables you to see the futileness of attachment and also hatred. It opens our eyes in that way. So if you look at your previous life, or if you look at things in a more broader way, then you can feel that he's a close person to you, and even if the person is close to you momentarily, that person could also turn into your enemy. In this practice, you need to maintain your equanimity. Through constant practice, you can develop your heart to sense of equanimity for whether it's your friend or whether it's an enemy or whether it's a stranger. So through this kind of constant practice, and if it doesn't work out, then you can have the picture of the person you hate the most, and even if you don't have the picture, when you pray in the morning, you remember him in front of the Buddha statue. If you try this, then it disappears from your heart, the sense of hatred and also sense of anger. Each time I do, I think of the person that I hate, and I prostrate and I pray, and in the practice it disappears. Once someone told me before, sometimes I grind my teeth, and so I asked him, are you wearing the false teeth? And he said, no, my real teeth does so, and I have to pay back my I have to pay back to my enemy. Can't I just pray to the God of God and ask him to hit him with a hammer? But I told him I could not say him that he doesn't hit you with hammer or something. But when you pray, just can you do it just so in a way that I tell you? And then he said, in that way, that person will have problem, right? And I said, that person will turn upside down. And he was very happy.
아주 아마 거꾸로 될 겁니다. 그럼 이 사람이 엄청 좋아.
And I asked him who, and she said it's her husband. She said it was her husband before, not anymore. And asked what should she do. And now he has another wife and he's living there, and she feels so angry, and now that she wants to go and put the house on the fire. I told her there's a better way than that.
집에다 불을 질러버리고 싶다는 거예요. 그것보다 좋은 방법이 있다고 내가 일러줬지.
Make a small picture of them in the house, and the Buddha statue. And she said she doesn't have her picture, and I told her you can get her picture and put it on the Buddha, put it nearby Buddha statue, and do 108 prostration. And I think when she was doing it the first time, she was hoping there was life. But if you do so, then it only hurts you. So don't think so. But instead, because the divine guardian knows it very well, just pray that you're hoping that they will live a very good life. Then he will take care of it. I should not tell you the secret behind it, but the divine guard, he will know how you feel and he will take care of it. So just pray that they would live happily together. And she asked, what happens? What happens if they live well? As my prayer. And I said, no, then only the divine God will be touched by your hurt, your kind heart, and he will take care of you. But after 1 year, it seemed like she prayed very hard, as I told her after 1 year. And she said after 1 year that she had been fooled by me. And when I asked her what, she said, after I did so, I felt comfortable. And I told her I did so that you feel comfortable. So just let them live happily. When he grows older and when he dies later, then it's difficult to take care of the corpse. So what is the use of the old man? Then she said, now I know. Due to that, I will study. I will start studying. I think there is no use in the sense of hatred. She said I will live happily. And I was very happy because my prescription worked up to a certain extent, and she prayed very hard. And later, when I saw her, she had the sense of serenity on her face. I'm sure that she gets angry from time to time, but when she think about it, maybe he'll live for 20 to 30 years more, but then it causes a little more issue just by giving her food and doing all the things. But when they were getting divorced, he gave her quite a lot of alimony, and she spent the money going around visiting temples, and also praying on her own. But when you look at it, the effect of the prayer is quite beneficial. Once a person suffered from the inflammation in the eye,
큰일 났네. 심각해가지고.
And when they went to read the person felt uh, the the sickness became quite serious. And after a week or so, he had this rupture, and and so and so I told him it might become a big problem if you suffer from rupture. So hold your hip all the time. And then he was holding his hip for 1 week and he didn't rub his eye, and that cured his inflammation. So without even using pills, just because he put his hand on his butt,
그거 뭐 약 한 첩도 안 쓰고 그냥 요렇게
it cured his eyes.
딱 잡고 이렇게 잠시 손 놓는 사이에 이게 문제가.
Because we touch our eyes all the time, it causes problems. It causes more inflammation, but he was only holding onto his butt and he was sitting for a week, and because he didn't touch the eye.
똥꼬만 잡고서 가만히 붙들고 일주일 동안 앉아 있었더니 그만 손을 이유로 안 올라오니까.
So the prescription I gave them with a lie was quite helpful.
그래가지고 그 거짓말 약 효과가 상당히 됐어.
Like this, if you extend the broadness of your practice, then you can expand your hurt to even your neighbor or even your race. If you expand your hurt in that way, that you hope every sentient being will be happy, and if you through this extension, if you attain the sense of equanimity, it is beneficial, and it should be done so. Before, when I said let's help the Tibetans and also those refugees, I told you I got a call from one monk, and he said, Venerable Jinok, don't help the Tibetan refugees. There are so many people who are dying of hunger in Korea. That's because he has a very narrow thought. In our country, in our city, and also those who are close to you, my family, it gets more narrow. And if it becomes more narrow, then you feel that, oh, there's no use even for the children. I will have my money. And finally, everything is upon you, and everyone will live from you. If you become selfish, then that person will feel very lonely, miserable, and also unhappy. And whatever happens to that person will not have the power to take care of it. Finally, we can extend our practice to every living being. You can start from specific individual, and you can attain the absolute equanimity. Start thinking that you want everyone to be happy. If you start from the broad area from the beginning, then you might seem like you are gaining the general equanimity. But then once you go back to the specific individual, and if you study the changes that's been made, then you can know that not much has been changed for better. So first, you should attain the equanimity for those who are close to you, and you should try your best for them, and you should expand it. But if you just ignore this, and if you start off with people who are far away, like people living in Africa, then maybe it looks like you have a very broad ability. But when you come back, and when you look to those who are close to you, then you can see that not much has been changed. Even in Confucianism, we say that
나의
we control our heart.
닫고,
We
그죠?
control our heart, and also we control our house.
그리고 자기 집안을 다스리고, 집안을 다스린다는 게 통치한다는 뜻이 아니에요.
Controlling our house means here you wish harmony for everyone living in this house,
화해롭고 다
and after that expand it,
하고 수신제가
control your country,
그런 다음에 그걸 확대시켜서 시국 나라를
and control the whole world.
그다음에 평천하라 온 지구를 다스린다.
But it begins from you.
수신제가 시국 평천하. 왜냐면 그
Controlling the whole world also begins from you.
천하를 다스리는 것도 나로부터 시작합니다.
If
우리 이제 정몽주 씨가 아들이 뭐라고
Mr. Chung Mong-ju says, my child or my children didn't listen to him, then you might say that he did not listen to, you might say that it's them who's not listening to me. What is I got to do in here? But that means he was not successful at controlling his house. I'm not saying that it's his fault, but when his wife is wearing some like animal fur coat, and also when she goes around everywhere that she wants to, that means she's not being able. That means when he's not even able to change his wife, then how can he change the whole world? He cannot. If he has lived his life for the betterment of all citizens, then his children should have listened and followed his teachings all the time. So the children's behavior is nothing different from the speeches of their parents. That's why after listening to what children say, we can know the personality of their parents. Even those in elementary school or even in kindergarten, they come and say, they come and tell about all of their parents. So we know about the household problems of each house. Teacher, my mom and my dad fought. But mom cried. We know it all. Then if the mother comes to know, then the mother will push the child. Don't say something like this when you go somewhere else. Then what happens to the kid? The kid will say it's a secret. Please do not say, and she will say. Then she will again say, I told you not to say. So later when the teacher asks again, so how was your day? The children cannot answer because she's scared that she might be beaten, and she cries. Then the teacher will know again. She has to try hard in front of the children. If they have been fighting in front of the children all the time, but if they had told the children not to say, can they listen? Therefore, this kind of practice is better to expand the practice, and this method has been suggested and also praised by so many scholars and teachers in the past. So it means do not leave what is close to you, but start off from the outside. But in Buddhism, in the Confucianism, they said the beginning begins from you, begins from I. But in Buddhism, we say it begins from the heart.
나의 마음으로부터 시작한다 이렇게. 마음.
And you can expand it furthermore.
시작해서 그저
So even when you're singing,
좀 확대를 시켜나가는 것이다. 그 이제 노래할 때도요.
open your chest and relax, and
이제 가슴을 쫙 펴고 긴장을
you concentrate your breath in the lower part of your abdomen. But when you look at those idol singers nowadays, they're just singing from their throat. And after some time, their throat will all feel bad. And even the mantra reciting, if you do it from the throat, then your throat feels the fatigue. You should do it from the abdomen. This method, we call it hogi, and that means we are feeling the energy to the part, to the end. When you're singing, they don't look in the front, they're looking at the very back. Even when you go for the teaching, they don't look at the very front seat. Even when it's like 1,000 people sitting, they don't look at the front people, but they look at the very back. Then, since you are trying to expand your energy into the very end, so when you sing, the voice goes to the end. But instead of trying to give our energy to the back, if we just try to sing it from the front or speak from the front, then even when you're using a mic, you are not able to let them hear until the very back. When you listen to those Korean classical music singers, they also do the same. They put your heart until the very end, and when they sing in the front, then depending on the energy, the sound will follow. So for the benefit of all sentient beings, where your heart lies, the energy follows, and where your energy is, you can expand your method. You understand? So even when you are cooking, there are times when you hurt your finger. That's because your consciousness is not with the cooking. It's because your consciousness keeps moving, and while you're doing it, you cut your fingers. And the other one is because you had some argument with your husband, and while you're cutting your finger, you're thinking about your husband, and that way you also cut your finger. So in order not to be hurt, all the time when you get hurt, it's those when your thoughts doesn't follow your heart, and at those times, it's 100% for sure that you will get hurt. Even in the Zero Ferry, if the captain had his thought inside the ship, then I'm sure that he would have saved a lot of people, because his thought did not lie inside the ferry, but he thought about the way to survive, and that way a lot of people had been hurt, and he didn't know what to do. Since the time of the beginning, or since the time we don't know when the beginning, let's think about it from the concept of the all sentient beings. This refers to the circulating process due to the effect of karma and agony.
무슨 얘기냐면 중생이 윤회하는 것은 여러분이
When you get connected yesterday, today, and tomorrow,
어제하고 오늘하고 내일하고 이렇게 연결되는
we tend to think just like a line because we say yesterday, today, and tomorrow. This is yesterday, today, tomorrow.
이렇게 이제 한 선처럼 이렇게 되고
Even when you're watching a movie,
오늘이고 내일이고 이렇게 되잖아요.
when you have a film,
얘기할 수 있잖아요.
the film has so many different
필름이 이렇게 있으면
segregations, and in 1 second, about 17 films they pass by, and when you see from the front,
그러면 그게 이제 앞에서 비쳤을 때 우리는
then due to the optical illusion, we think they are being connected.
못 봐요. 그러니까 연결된 것처럼
For 24 hours yesterday, things changed, and it's where we stand now. And after it changed, it will become tomorrow's position. And although it's tomorrow's position, but it actually means it's today. Because when tomorrow always comes, it's always today. There's no yesterday, there's no tomorrow, there's always today.
왔을 때는 오늘이라고 언제나 언제나
We're just standing on an area where it's changing constantly.
오늘 또 그릇
Then even when you're living one life,
있을 뿐이죠, 그죠? 그러면
it keeps changing.
한 생을 살아간다라고 할 때도 그릇 변화하면서 환골탈태해서 계속
And all the process that changes, we say we are living. Including all of them, we say we are living. There's nothing that's concrete, or there's nothing that doesn't change in this world.
사는 아니에요.
It all gets connected to the next stage and another stage.
그 다음 순간을
But even the thoughts, what belonged to yesterday, most of them die and they disappear. And also, it's the same as the cells in our body. A lot of them disappear and a lot of them is being created. And today changes and tomorrow is also changing, and we continue that process.
변화해서 내일 부분이 상당히 그렇게 변해 나가고 그릇 계속 반복하는 거예요.
And in that way, the body that we had in this life changes in a big way, and we call that death.
몸뚱아리가 또
And after that, when you change again in next life,
이렇게 딱 죽음이 오면서
our karma changes and we become a little child again, and we move again for change.
또 이제 어린 아이로 해서 이렇게 변해서 다시 또 변해 가는 과정이다.
When you see a moth, they have eggs and it becomes a pupa,
알이 있고 알이
and from pupa caterpillar it changes to
곤충이 되고
again moth.
곤충이 깨어나서 뭐가 돼요? 응? 나방이 되고 나비가 되거나 그렇게 하고 요게 이렇게 해서
And again lays egg,
그 고치가 되어서 안으로 들어가면서 그죠? 요 안에다 알을 낳죠.
and from the egg it changes again and again. Through this repetition,
요게 나와서 또 이제 알이 되고 알이 또 변해서 이렇게 되고 그것도 반복해서 이렇게 변화하는
through this repetition it continues.
사람도 그와 같은 거의 비슷한 과정이에요. 그것도 변화해가는 과정이에요. 네.
This phenomenon we have cause, but there is no cause that's concrete. Even the cause changes forever, and if the cause is eternal, then the result should also be eternal, but it is not so. The existence of the samsara is not being caused by God. We call it Jadechan, and Jadechan means the highest being of the celestial world, but it is not caused by a God. Then where does it exist? And we have bases for two of them, two bases, and those two bases are the karma and agni. And here, the agni is more strong, and even in the agni, the ignorance is more serious. And ignorance doesn't begin from external world, but it is usually caused from your inner understanding and your inner consciousness. If we try to explain this, then it will take about 20 minutes. And so let's end today's teaching here, and let's continue from next teaching. If you have any questions, please let me know.